center.
Yeah, you can take
But
it
more
apart.
important, it was home to the prosperous First National Bank. And that's what brought the four horsemen to town that day.
Exactly the same.
Wow, that's very clever.
Jim and Big Asa. There was Jim Bennett, who only months earlier had married a local girl, Jenny Renfro. But Jim had disappeared and Jenny hadn't seen her new husband for several weeks. The fourth rider and leader of the group was Bill Dalton, at the time the most famous outlaw in America. For a week, Dalton and his gang had camped on the Sabine Riverbank a few miles from town, plotting the bank robbery. Our story begins shortly before 3 o'clock the afternoon of May 23rd, 1894. It was a rather slow afternoon down at the First National Bank of Longview. The bank employees on hand included Bank President Joe Clemens and his cashier brother, Tom Clemens. They were discussing a recent letter that had been sent to a gentleman in Longview.
Tom, here's that letter I was telling you about at the town meeting. Can you imagine a fella mailing a letter to somebody warning that they better take their money out of the bank because it's going to be robbed? Now, what did that letter say? Well, Joe, the note reads, we take this method of informing you that on or about the 23rd day of May, AD 1894, we will rob the First National Bank of Longview. So take notice accordingly and withdraw your deposit as this is a straight tip. Well, today being May 23rd and all, if they're going to rob the bank, they better hurry up. We're about to close.
Now, into the bank comes Jenny Renfro. Remember, Jenny had married outlaw Jim Bennett only weeks earlier. One of the bank officials asked about her new husband.
Well, howdy, Miss Jenny. We heard you got married recently. Where's your new husband? Haven't seen him in a while.
I wish I knew. He and my pa had an argument and he rode off. I hope he comes back soon. I really miss him and I hope he's all right.
Jenny then got a couple of dollars from her account to go shopping. She wished Tom and Joe Clements a nice day and walked out of the bank. Little did Jenny know that in just a few minutes, she would see her newlywed husband, Jim Bennett. Yes, at precisely 3 p.m. on May 23rd, 1894, Bill Dalton and his gang slowly ride into Longview. There is no effort to hide their identity, no masks or bandana to cover their faces. In fact, as the four horsemen ride along Tyler Street, a local doctor who had treated Jim Bennett called out,
I say, Jim, when are you going to pay me that money that you owe me? Doc, that's where we're headed right now, to the bank.
Bill Dalton then hands a note to Tom Clemens.
This is to introduce you to Charles Speckelmeyer, who wants some money and is going to have it. Signed B and F.
At first, Banker Clemens believes this is some sort of joke, but when he sees Bill Dalton's gun, the bank officials realize the joke's on them. This is a holdup.
Next time somebody writes you a letter to tell you they're going to rob the bank, you better pay heed. Now fill up the sack.
And then Bill Dalton orders Tom Clements to open the bank vault.
No, sir, I won't do it.
Tom Clemens and Bill Dalton begin to struggle. Dalton points his revolver at Clemens, and the gun goes off. At this point, a bank customer walks into the bank and realizes exactly what's happening.
Bank robbery, the bank's being robbed.
Well, at this point, the alarm has been sounded, and downtown Longview turns into a battle zone.
Don't shoot him again. Can't you see he's already dead?
Within minutes, the Longview bank robbery has become one of of the most bloody shootouts in the history of the Old West. That first victim was saloon keeper George Buckingham, who ran out of London Saloon when he first heard the shooting. He was shot down by outlaw Jim Bennett. Next to be shot was Charlie Learned, a mill hand at Brown and Llewellyn Sawmill. And that over there is T.C. Summers. He got drilled in the hand. And lying on the street right over there is Walter McQueen. We thought old Walter was a goner for sure, but he eventually recovered, although crippled for life. And right over there is perhaps the luckiest man in Longview that day, although he doesn't look like it right now. That's our city marshal, Matt McElroy. The marshal you see was shot right in the heart by outlaw Jim Bennett. Well, he was almost shot in the heart, but believe it or not, the bullet from Bennett's gun struck a silver dollar in a leather point purse that Marshal McElroy carried in his shirt pocket. Although gravely wounded, thanks to that silver dollar, the marshal will survive his wound and live to a ripe old age. Now, folks, we introduce Deputy Will Stevens and local businessman Claude Lacey, who realized that if this shooting is going to end, they're going to have to get outlaw Bennett out of the way. At almost the same instant, Stevens and Lacey will aim their weapons at Jim Bennett. So, back to the action. Amid a hail of gunfire, Bill Dalton and the Knight brothers made their escape out of town. Grant County Sheriff Jack Howard quickly rounded up a posse to go after the outlaws and avenge the terrible deed that Bill Dalton perpetrated on the good people of Longview. Dalton and the Knights made their way to the Indian Territory of Oklahoma, taking with them some $2,000 in coins and banknotes. Nobody at the time realized it had been the infamous Bill Dalton who led the robbers. Only 2 weeks later, Bill Dalton was surrounded at his hideout, a cabin in Oklahoma's Arbuckle Mountains, and was shot down by lawmen. Inside the cabin, the posse found most of the money that had been taken in the Longview bank robbery. But there were two more victims of the Longview bank robbery we need to tell you about. The first was young Jenny Renfro, who had married Jim Bennett. Remember, Jenny hadn't seen Jim in weeks, but today she finds her newlywed husband lying dead on Fredonia Street. And when the outlaws buried in Greenwood Cemetery in an unmarked grave the very next day, Jenny is the only mourner at the funeral. But there's another victim too. It's Tom Clemens, a heroic bank employee who had slammed shut the vault and struggled with Bill Dalton. Tom Clemens had run down Bank Street to escape the bandits. He had dived into what he thought was the safety of a vat of lime being used for a local construction project. Tom stayed face down in that vat for several minutes, breathing the lime into his system as the bullets whistled overhead. After that, Tom Clemens never again was in good health. And less than 2 years after the bank robbery, Tom Clemens died at the age of 42. Unlike Jim Bennett's funeral, every single business in town closed and hundreds of people turned to pay their final respects to Tom Clemens. And that, friends and neighbors, ends our tale of the historic events of May 23rd, 1894, the Bill Dalton Longview bank robbery, one of the grandest and certainly one of the most tragic shootouts in the history of Old West. Oh yes, and I need to tell you about the two remaining outlaws, the Knight brothers. In 1897, Big Asa Knight was killed in a gunfight, and Jim Knight was captured. Jim Knight was eventually sent to prison for his role in the Longview bank robbery. He was paroled in 1914 and drifted back to Oklahoma. In 1920, Jim Knight got into an argument with the Tulsa drugstore owner. The Oklahoman shot him 6 times. You might say Jim Knight died of lead poisoning. The once Dalton's game was finally history, and the Longview bank robbery of May 23rd, 1894 proves once again that crime doesn't pay.